Hello, here's a quick trick on how you can use the new versions of Pigments or VCV to make sounds like this. I'm actually planning a full tutorial on this using VCV, so this is really just a quick overview of how you can use the new modal synthesizer engine in Pigments version 6. Okay, so physical modeling software basically uses DSP, it uses algorithms, so you're mathematically computing sound using some maths basically. But you can approximate this using a source of noise into any kind of resonator, like a resonant filter or a really short delay. So I'm just showing you how to use this in VCV. What I've got here is I'm running VCV Pro in Reaper. I've got a noise module here into a VCA with a short envelope. So that basically just makes a click like that. Now, if we put that into a resonator, so I'm using surge filter here in comb filter mode, and that noise into a resonator just excites it and pings the delay and gives you a nice plucky sound like that. So what I like to do is actually put samples into the resonator instead. So I've got a sample here of some water. It's this blue module here is the Sicko sampler, which is polyphonic. So we can play that on a few channels at once. And if I put that into a resonator, so I'm using these two Volander modules here, and that's going to sound something like this. So it's a bit like a vocoder. You've got the spectral content of the sound coming from the sample, the exciter, and then you've got the actual pitch coming from the resonator. We can put some effects on that as well and just see what that sounds like. Like some supermassive on, why not? And so, yeah, that's quite a nice way to make kind of ambient textures, pads with a bit of character and some texture going on. You can also do this with the new version of Pigments. So if I just mute that for a second and unmute these, it's a bit complicated because you actually have to use two instances. So if I just close that and open this one, so actually I'll show you this one first. This is the resonator. So the resonator section in Pigments is in kind of three sections. If you put the engine to modal, and then you've got the collision exciter mode, which is the initial kind of pluck, like twanging a guitar string or striking a xylophone, etc. Then you've got a second stage, which is the friction exciter mode, and that's like kind of bowing a violin or blowing into a flute where you're kind of applying constant pressure to the sound. And then the resonator is this part in the middle, and you can choose between beam and string. Now, there is a granular section, but you can only use the samples built in. I want to use my own samples, and you can't do that, but what you can do is select the audio input. So if I select both of these sections here, the collision exciter and the friction exciter to audio input, then I'm going to get a second instance of Pigments, which is this one here. And this is going to be our exciter. So if I just play this on its own, let's see if we can hear this. So that's a sample I made in VCV. Let's try something that's a bit different, a bit clearer maybe. So if I go to my own folder, 1 second. So here I've got a variety of textures we can use for this. That's some bubble wrap. We've got the coins in a glass, eating crisps, kids game, all that kind of thing. And what we can do, you need to mess around with the routing a little bit. I'm going to set that back to this filter ping sound there, that one, and just close that for a second. So I'll just show you what I've done with the routing. What you need to do is, if I go on to the resonator, so this is the instance of Pigments, which is doing the modal engine, and then you need to add a receive, and then that's receiving audio from the exciter. And then on this channel, what I've done, I've just unticked master send channels from to, and that just means you don't hear it. So all we're hearing now is the sound of this Pigments feeding into the resonator in the other Pigments. and then we can try the different samples again and see how that's going to sound. So if I just go back to this one, I did say it's a bit complicated. Arturia really need to sort out a way of using your own samples without messing about using two instances and fooling about with the routing, because it is annoying. Let's just try a few different sounds. Okay, that one works quite well. Let's try the bubble wrap. That's quite good as well. Coins in a glass. That's quite an interesting texture, that one. How about the sound of me eating crisps into a resonator? See how that sounds. It's a bit less dense, this one. Yeah, that's weird. You can hear the kind of crunch coming through there. That kind of sound. So yeah, some sounds don't work too well if you use anything that's got pitch in it. So this one, for example, that doesn't work too well. It's not as bad as I thought, actually. But the advantage of this is you can use all the features of Pigments sample player, the granular section and all that stuff. So if I just select this one again, and then, so that's with the granular turned off. And if we turn this on, we're just going to get a different texture. Increase the density a bit, maybe. So I think this is quite an interesting idea. You know, the texture of the sound is coming from the sample you use, and then the rest of it's coming from this resonator section. And on this one, I've got that set to beam, and then obviously if you change these parameters, it makes it brighter. I'm modulating some stuff there as well, which makes it go a bit weird. And you can increase the decay, and obviously mess around with different types. That's going to give you a different sound as well. So yeah, I think this is quite a cool idea. It is good for making ambient pads, kind of textural, interesting sounds. Quite good for drones as well. But yeah, Arturia really need to find out a way where you can just select your own samples in this section. So I mean, it has got granular, but if you listen to this, it's just that kind of constant sound, which isn't. I don't like that. You can turn it up. You can modulate this and turn the speed up and down. But that's kind of your only option. I don't like this, to be honest. I don't think it's very good. Pigments is brilliant, but this is the only thing I don't like about the modal engine, the fact that you're restricted to this kind of sound. And you can use different noises, which are, again, some of them are good, but I don't like the fact it's rhythmic. I like kind of random impulses, and you can't really do that unless you set that to audio input and then set up another source feeding into your track through whichever DAW you use. I just think that's unnecessarily complicated, which is a shame, but it does make nice sounds like this. So there you go. If you've got Pigments, get the update to version 6 and you can try this. If not, stay tuned for my tutorial on VCV and show you how you can make some more interesting patches using those ideas.